everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk. Today, I want to talk about something that I feel like happens a lot in adult friendship, but people don't always talk about it openly. And that's when you're friends with people who are also friends with each other. But the relationships with that circle are all different. You might have a certain dynamic with someone. Maybe you've known them longer. Maybe your personalities just click. Maybe the friendship grew in a different way. But then you have another friend who also interacts with those same people, and their experience with them is completely different from yours. And somehow, without trying to be, you end up stuck in the middle. Sometimes you notice things your friend doesn't notice yet. Sometimes you hear things or see behaviors that make you pause and think, that didn't sit right with me. And as a friend, you start wondering if you should say something. Not because you're trying to start drama, not because you want to turn people against each other, but because you care. So sometimes I'll tell my friends something like, just be mindful about what you share, because not everyone needs full access to your happiness, your plans, or your personal life. But here's where it can get complicated. Sometimes when you say that, your friend takes it further than you expected. Instead of just being mindful, they completely distance themselves from those mutual friends. And when that happens, it can start affecting things that involve you too. For example, if I host something like an army meetup or an event, of course I'd want the support of my friends being there. But if my friend has distanced themselves from people in that circle, sometimes they stop showing up to things I'm doing too. And that part, honestly, kind of sucks because I understand their feelings. If someone made you uncomfortable or hurt you, it makes sense to create space. But at the same time, you start realizing that the friendship dynamic has changed. Maybe they found a different circle. Maybe they're just protecting their peace. And sometimes you just have to accept that friendship you once had might not look the same anymore. That doesn't mean the friendship is over, but it might mean things are different now. And part of being an adult is learning that friendships evolve, even when we didn't expect them to. Another thing I think about a lot in friendships is trust. What you share with one friend should stay with that friend. We all vent. We all have moments where we need to talk things out with someone we trust. But when someone chooses to vent to you, it's usually because they feel safe with you. They trust that you'll listen without judging them or repeating what they said. So if I vent to someone, I'm not sharing that story so they can go repeat it to someone else. Unless it's clearly communicated or everyone involved already knows, it's not our place to judge, gossip, or retell someone else's story. Sometimes people just need a safe place to talk, and the people we trust should respect that. But something else that can happen, and honestly, this one hurts the most, is when you share your point of view with someone you trust, and instead of hearing you out, they start making excuses for the other person. Instead of encouraging communication or accountability, they defend the behavior. And that can be really disappointing because now you're realizing the person you thought had your back might actually be enabling the toxic behavior of their friend. And when that happens, you're forced to step back and really look at that friendship. You start asking yourself, does this person actually have my back? Because sometimes the hardest realization is understanding that not everyone in your circle is really in your corner. And when you see that clearly, you have to decide how much space that person should have in your life moving forward. Also, another thing I've learned is that when there's a fallout between two people in the same friend group, it should stay between those two people. It shouldn't automatically become a group issue. Just because two people don't get along anymore doesn't mean everyone else has to pick sides. For me personally, I can still be cordial with someone even if my friend doesn't vibe with them anymore. But I'm also not going to hide it because at the end of the day, that situation belongs to them. They have to work through their own emotions. What it might mean though is that the group dynamic changes. Maybe everyone doesn't hang out together anymore. Maybe certain friendships continue separately. And yeah, that can be unfortunate. But the truth is, we're adults now. Friendships change. People grow in different directions. And sometimes the circles we once shared don't stay the same forever. Another thing I've also learned through situations like this is that people process things very differently. Some people are more sensitive than others. And because of that, how you approach a conversation really matters. If someone feels attacked, sometimes they stop listening completely. And honestly, this is something I struggle with a lot. I'm not the most soft spoken person. I'm pretty direct, I'm honest, and I can be loud sometimes. And I've been told before that the way I say things can come across as mean, but that's never my intention. For me, I'm just trying to be real and honest about how I feel. I'm not trying to sugarcoat things or pretend everything is fine when it's not. But I've also learned that how we say something matters just as much as what we say. And I'll be honest, that's something I'm still working on. Sometimes I don't know how to tone things down without feeling like I'm not being myself. But growth also means recognizing where we can communicate better. So I'm trying to be more mindful about my tone, my delivery, and how my words might land with someone else. Because the goal isn't to hurt someone. The goal is to communicate honestly while still protecting the friendship. And that balance is something I think a lot of us are still figuring out. At some point, we have to decide. Are we working through the friendship and finding a way forward? Or are we letting it go and moving on? Either way, life keeps moving forward. But loyalty, trust, and respect should always be part of the foundation of any friendship. So I'm curious. Have you ever found yourself stuck in the middle of friendships? Have you ever realized someone you trusted didn't really have your back the way you thought they did? And if you've been in that situation, what did you do? Did you speak up? Did you distance yourself? Or did you just let things play out and focus on protecting your peace? Because honestly, situations like this aren't easy. But I think a lot more people go through them than we talk about. And sometimes just having the conversation helps us realize we're not the only ones navigating it. And that's all part of life. Friendships aren't always simple. People grow, situations change, and sometimes the circles we thought would always stay the same shift. It doesn't always mean someone is a bad person. Sometimes it just means people are in different places with different boundaries and different perspectives. The important thing is learning from those moments, protecting your peace, and being honest with yourself about what you're willing to accept in your friendships. For me, I'm still learning, still figuring out how to communicate better, how to approach sensitive conversations, and how to balance honesty with kindness. And if you're navigating something similar right now, just know you're not alone. Friendships can be complicated, but they can also teach us a lot about ourselves and the people we choose to keep around us. If this episode resonated with you, let me know. Have you ever been stuck in the middle of friendships? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share the episode if this conversation spoke to you. And as always, Jai Yin Yen, let's talk soon.